Encyclopedia. Connor, let's go ahead and recap week 4. We had an up and down kind of weekend. How did your plays come out for you?
This past week, I experienced the worst bad beat I have ever had. So one of my 4 best bets, I was 1-3 overall. Obviously, not a great look after we both had a fantastic week the previous week. You still had a
Yeah.
good week. We'll get into your best bets here shortly, but I went 1-3 overall. But it looks a whole lot better when you go 500 than when you're 1-3. And
Yeah.
one of my 3 losses, I had the Troy team total under 19.5. Now, my
Okay.
whole thought was Buffalo's defense did not perform well the previous week against Kent State. It's a veteran group. They brought back 9 starters this year. It's a coaching staff that relies on its defense. So I thought they were going to bounce back against Troy's second and third string quarterbacks because Troy's backup quarterbacks looked terrible the week prior against Memphis. Well, it was looking just perfect for me going into the fourth quarter, the score being 17-0 in favor of Buffalo
Mm-hmm.
with about 10 and a half, 11 minutes to play. And you're thinking, you know what? Troy could have 1 or 2 decent drives to end this game, garbage time, and you probably still cash that Troy team total under. And what happened? The only way they could potentially beat that was that they would have to have 3 quality drives in the last 10 and a half minutes of the game, all resulting in touchdowns in a game that they hadn't mustered anything against a veteran defense with a second and third string quarterback. And Troy did just that. They had 21 points in the final 10 and a half minutes, and I lost that bet. Clemson, which we'll get into here later on the show.
Yeah.
Hey, my mistake, guys. The public was right. Normally the Sharps beat the public. The public won that one. I'll give the public their credit there, no doubt. I was 110% wrong about that game. And I can promise y'all that I will do my best to admit fault when I'm on the wrong side of something, and I was there. And I can also promise DDSN Nation, I will no longer ever back Dabo Swinney and Clemson ever again.
That's a good
Now,
idea.
I'm still not that high on Syracuse because it took a miracle for them to beat UConn at home. They're an outright underdog now against Duke at home, and Duke hasn't been fantastic. The numbers don't love Syracuse. I don't love Syracuse still, but I'm no longer going to tail Clemson, that's for sure. And then my other bet, East Carolina, or my other loss, I should say, ECU and BYU. First and foremost, like a three touchdown win there for BYU. Good for them. But the score was really not indicative of how that game was flowing. The total yardage was actually pretty even, but East Carolina had some crucial turnovers. They had a pick six right before half when they threw the football on their own 5-yard line when they literally just could have taken a knee, gone into halftime trailing 6-3. Then they had an interception inside the BYU 10-yard line. I think it was late first half, maybe early second half. And then they were settling for field goals. They had some short yardage situations that couldn't capitalize. And then my one future that I got correct was Washington in the first half against Washington State. They ended up clobbering Washington State specifically in the fourth quarter. But I liked how I played that with Ohio State on deck for the Dogs. Fading Washington State has cashed in for me so far this season for the most part. So I like that play, obviously. So I stand with 3 of my plays. Obviously, Clemson, I do not, but in hindsight's 2020. But, yeah, I mean, bad beats this past weekend. Even with some of our money line plays that we had sprinkled some money line stuff, we had some bad beats there. We still won a couple of there. Our leans, though, of course, they weren't best bets, but we had a lot of leans that actually ended up going correct. Like KU destroyed West Virginia. So
they did.
It could have been a worse weekend because while we didn't have a great record, you still did pretty good. I should just say on me. I still did not have a great weekend.
Yeah.
But, man, it was much closer to being much better than it was to being, like a terrible weekend where it's like you were not correct on anything. So, in bounce back potential because we just had a great weekend last week. So, I mean, bright. There is a light at the end of the tunnel here. We're still looking okay for the long term.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel for one person, and that's Mike Gundy. and I gave out Oklahoma State as one of my best bets. And speaking of clobbering, Oklahoma State was destroyed by little brother Tulsa. And Tulsa, to surprisingly, I've seen Tulsa play one other game this year, and that was against New Mexico State. And New Mexico State moved the ball all over the place on the Golden Hurricanes. They looked dominated, and they dominated Tulsa. Tulsa barely scored, I think, 2 touchdowns. But Oklahoma State, that's just the state of the Cowpokes program right now with Mike Gundy. I was also wrong. I thought that they were going to fire him Friday night if they lost, and they didn't for whatever reason. I'm sure they're going to let him have, ride out the season as bad as it could get. Otherwise, I was genuinely shocked they didn't fire him Friday night or Saturday. But the Oklahoma State looked terrible. Tulsa looked amazing. Their defensive tackles are massive, and their running back, who played for Oklahoma State last year, had the game of his life, of course. So yeah, Oklahoma State looked terrible, and that was, you're not the only one. So that was just as bad as the damn Clemson Tigers. I think Dabo Sweeney's also in the same boat after his fiery speeches leading up to that game against Syracuse. They came out flat. Syracuse came out really guns a blazing. They came down the field, scored a touchdown, went for an onside kick, got it by the smallest margin, and then went down the field and scored again. And they go up at least 17-0 to start the game. And basically, Clemson's in shell shock. Dabo Sweeney's going crazy on the sideline. And Cade Klubnik looks like Cade Klubnik of old. Not so great for a hotshot 5-star quarterback prospect. He's only had what, half a good season the end of last year. He kind of turned it on, but he's been very underachieving, underwhelming his other 3 years there in Clemson. So I think Dabo Sweeney's on the hot seat. Clemson's going to have to make a decision on him, whether they want to kind of ride out into the sunset with Dabo or just cut ties and uh, start moving the program in a different direction. Which, I mean, I don't really blame them with, kind of the display that they had on Saturday. What was my other loss? Speaking of terrible displays and coaching, Bill Belichick. I backed North Carolina.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought North Carolina was going to be able to at least play with Central Florida. Central Florida destroyed them again. Before it was even the end of the first quarter, they dominated that game. So I'm pretty sure there's another quarterback in another program that's got to look themselves in the mirror and figure out what they want to do long term. Not an easy rebuild for Belichick, but just all the off the field drama, it just is just it gets multiplied and magnified when you're not winning. So the more they lose, the more that looks bad on the program and Belichick himself. No matter how much of a legend he is. Where I was right, finally, Maryland, Malik Washington. This could be, I don't know, one of the best quarterbacks, players in the country that nobody's seen play. He dominated Wisconsin. That was another game. Thankfully, we're on the right side of it. That they just came out swinging and dominated Wisconsin like I thought that they would. I didn't think it would be that bad, but yeah, Wisconsin's not very good, and that's another program that they're going to need to look in the mirror. The coach is going to look in the mirror. What do we want? What do we want to do long term? Because Wisconsin's heading to the bottom northwestern kind of territory of the Big Ten where you don't want to be. So they're gonna have to figure something out. While Maryland is on a up and they're on a upward trajectory, and it all starts with Malik Washington. Some people are saying, well, where's he going to play next year? Where's he going to play next year when all that money comes in? But he's from the area. He's from the DMV. I think he's from Virginia. So I think he'll stay there because there's really nowhere else to go in the region. Virginia Tech's down. Virginia's Virginia. And where's he going to go? Clemson? No, Maryland. Maryland could shock some people in the Big Ten. Of course, Wisconsin's not that great, but they're off to a good start. Miami. I think Miami's the best team in the country. We talked about that last week. I thought that they were in that top 5, but after I think we're on the same page here with Washington and Ohio State. We think Washington's going to give Ohio State, a great game, if not win, at home. Yeah, I think Miami's the best team in the country, and they dominated Florida. It wasn't as pretty, but again, Miami's probably played the toughest schedule to date as well. And they've been dominant. What was the other one I had? Um,
I'm looking it up right
Miami,
now.
Maryland,
Oh, Memphis plus 7.5.
Memphis.
Nice
Wow, that
play.
was a great game. Memphis had some bad turnover issues, but they didn't give up. And what did I say? You can't trust Sam Pittman, his game management. He's a terrible coach. He's a nice guy, very friendly, got good personality, but he's a terrible coach. And it just went to show it at the end of the game. Memphis could have, or Arkansas could have just kneed the ball down on the 5-7 yard line, probably kicked the field goal and sealed the game. But instead, they run the ball, they fumble. Memphis takes it down, wins the game outright, coming from behind, close to 21 points. I mean,
Yeah, they're
Memphis was
done.
dead in the Memphis was dead in the water, and they came back and won outright. So those are two outright dogs that won that were more than a touchdown. So that was a pretty great that was a great cash for us with those. So for the most part, I'm pretty happy with my best bets. I went out on a limb with Oklahoma State and North Carolina, but lesson learned, moved on. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's talk about anything that came up for you over the weekend, Connor. Just anything, how the week went, or anything special, or is that something that popped out to you?
Well, outside of Clemson, I'll be honest, there really has not been a ton that has surprised me this season. But Clemson, I do want to go back to them real quick.
Yeah,
If you had told me before the season began, hey, Connor, I'm not really that high on Clemson this year. I don't think they're going to be a national title contender. They'll probably still be fine in the ACC, but nothing special. Okay. Like that's a fair argument. Like they have not proven to be at that elite level since basically COVID's been around.
yeah.
So I can understand that argument. But for Clemson to start the season 1-3, 0-4 against the spread, mind y'all, they have not been an underdog, a projected underdog yet this year, and they're 1-3
That's
overall.
right.
Again and again, 0-4 against the number. One of only a few power conference teams that have been down by at least a touchdown in every game this season. The other
And we're not,
teams,
and that just goes to show we're not the only ones who are wrong on Clemson. Vegas power ratings also had, like you said, them favored in every game. LSU at home. Troy, they struggled with Troy, barely won. The Georgia Tech game, who I don't know who would make them a favorite. We talked about that last week, but yeah, I mean, Clemson's just they're sinking and they're sinking fast. So I agree with you on that one. What
and
about
here's a scary thing about for
yeah,
Clemson though, for the long term here. Like obviously they've been disappointing this season, but it's not like they're not talented. You know,
no, no, they still have NFL talent. You watch their wide receivers, if and only if they ever get the ball, they make plays. And the defense they have NFL players, which myself on the NFL side of things, I've already learned my lesson. Do not trust any defensive player that comes out of Clemson. They rarely produce, and they usually flunk out of the league within 3 to 4 years before their rookie contract's over. So it's not always a good thing to be a Clemson prospect, but yeah, they've got a few of those on the defensive side of the ball, though.
and they're going to be losing all these more talented players that they have, going into next year. And we are quite aware that Dabo Sweeney does not use the transfer portal. And
Refuses.
remember, next fiscal year, or actually just next calendar year, I should say, there's not going to be a spring transfer portal window. There's only going to
Yeah.
be one. So Clemson's probably going to be losing the majority of its production. Now you could
Either
say,
to the
well,
NFL or the transfer portal. Yeah.
you could argue, hey, it's been disappointing production, so it's a chance for Clemson if they keep Sweeney to kind of start clean, right? Yeah, you can make that argument, absolutely. But also, it's like, well, they're probably going to be relying on a lot of young guys because they don't use the portal. Dabble's going to have to do something that he's never done before. So I'm interested to see what Clemson looks like for 2026. A
Yeah.
year after me backing Clemson, I may be in fade mode for Clemson next year. This is just like Virginia Tech. I was backing Virginia Tech last
Yeah.
year. They disappointed in a big way. Coaching situation doesn't seem all that great. A lot of talent lost through either the portal, graduation, NFL draft. And look at Virginia Tech in 2025 this year. They've been
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah,
So
they already have guys because once the coach is fired, they're allowed to leave, and they've already had people leaving the program there at Virginia Tech.
right now, you could argue that Clemson probably has a higher floor than a program like a Virginia Tech,
Yeah.
and so maybe they're not going to be 3-9 next year. But my point is, a year after backing Virginia Tech, I was fading Virginia Tech this year. I might be doing the same
Mhm.
for Clemson a year after backing Clemson, less than a
Yeah.
month into the year. I'm going to be fading them starting, well, probably at some point this season. I'm going to start fading Clemson, but certainly going into next year.
Yeah. No, I would. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it either. What about the matchup between your Auburn Tigers and Oklahoma? That seemed to be, I've been hearing a lot of mixed reviews that maybe Auburn should have won the game due to a lot of, or the lack thereof, of officiating. What do you think about that? What did you think about that game?
There were some questionable calls, but I mean, to say that Auburn was like 3 or 4 calls away from winning the game in a
Hmm.
close game like that, you just never know. I'm never going to make that argument. Now, do Auburn fans have a right to complain because every close call went OU's way, and there was a couple egregious calls that should not even been called, and there was one
Um,
that was not called that should have been called that the SEC officials came out and said that they had made an outright mistake after following Oklahoma's victory. Yeah, Auburn fans have a right to complain about how the non-officiating went, but I mean, obviously there's a chance Auburn could have won had the officiating been different, but I'm not going to sit here
mhm.
and say Auburn would have won had those couple calls gone their way or not gone specifically OU's way. No, I'm not going to sit here and say that. It was a competitive game. Auburn fans have a right to be a little disappointed, right to be frustrated, but Auburn's an improved team this year. Their defense is legit. Offensive line, I know they did not play well against OU, but
Yeah.
it is a pretty talented offensive line. It's probably Auburn's most talented O-line since they played for the SEC title back in 2017. So this is Auburn's best team, no doubt, since pre-COVID. So if our Denton native at quarterback, if he can step it up a little bit, not take as much time in the pocket, I think Auburn
Mhm.
has a very high ceiling this year. And something that I said in the summer, and I still believe
Yeah.
this, I think Auburn is live to win every game on their schedule. Now, obviously, they're going to slip up just like they did against OU. They got some challenging opponents on there, like A&M this coming weekend, again on the
Mhm.
road. They sought to
Yeah.
play Georgia, Alabama. I'm not saying they're going to go 11-1, but what I'm saying is this team is very talented, and I would not write Auburn off in these upper echelon games.
Yeah. And there's another game that I want to go over, and it was kind of a place where I was definitely wrong, and that was Michigan. Michigan took care of business on the road against Nebraska. I thought Nebraska would win the game. They didn't play. I think what killed them was their turnovers, some bad turnovers. Drop pass went right into a Michigan player, but Michigan did gash Nebraska's front line. That's something you talked about that was a weakness of Nebraska was their front against Michigan's, and it came to fruition there because Michigan, I think they had at least 2 or 3 plays of 60 plus yards. So Michigan Wolverines look good even with Biff Poggi. So I was definitely wrong there. And another interesting game, which was happened a little later, and that was Cal Berkeley getting smashed by San Diego State, which I was all over the Bears, and they went sleepwalking there against the Aztecs, and the Aztecs smacked them around, shut them out too.
Folks, 2 weeks ago, that's why I was on San Diego State against Washington State. Where's this
Where was
Aztec?
that team, right?
Now, look, I don't know what to expect out of San Diego State. I don't know what to expect out of
Yeah.
Cal. I did read you that text though, that I sent you last year.
Yes.
Had
Yeah.
Cal kept their production, I think they still would have been a sneaky good team this year. Probably more than just sneaky good.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of either of these teams, other than I think both coaching staffs are pretty good. but they just have a lot of inconsistencies on their roster, a lot of new players on their roster, a lot of moving pieces. I think Cal has a nice quarterback, that freshman, but I don't want to try to pronounce his name, but I will try to look at his film and at least watch him there. Look, he can throw the football very accurately when he's not pressured. When the defense schemes things specifically in different ways with their blitz packages, he seems to struggle sometimes with pre-snap reads. That'll come with time. He's still a youngster, obviously, but the talent is there. But how much talent is around him at Cal? I think Cal has a couple of nice players in their front six defensively. Justin Wilcox normally coaches up a pretty good defense. Yes, San Diego State clobbered them on the score, and it really never felt like Cal had much of a chance in that game just because of how much their offense struggled against what is a pretty good San Diego State defense. Really, it's just San Diego State's offense is, I don't think, very good. But but the stats say that game was probably much closer than what the score really said. It's kind of similar to East Carolina and BYU. Yes, that one team ended up winning by a few possessions, but stats say this was probably more like if you were to make a spread for the game again. Obviously, Cal's not going to be laying double digits, but it's not like San Diego State is now a double-digit favorite. They're not 30 points better than Cal. So just like BYU is not 21 points better than East Carolina. So, but I can't blame you for thinking Cal, or for backing Cal in that kind of spot. But interestingly enough, John, I talked about ECU BYU last week as one of my Category 4 games. Do you know what was a Category 4 game for me in the preseason?
Which one?
Cal San Diego State. So what's funny is that the only Category 4 game, well, actually, that's not wrong. That's not true. I also talked about Old Dominion, Virginia Tech. That cashed in on a money line last week. But besides that and then Toledo, Kentucky, the only other Category 4 game I've brought up was ECU BYU, and that's been my worst Category 4 game so far. Literally every other Category 4 game except for Southern Miss and Mississippi State, the G5 team has covered. So if you go look at my college football Instagram page, my G5 superlative post, scroll I think it's one of the last slides on that post, I talk about Category 4. Well, the G5 has been great against the number. I think I posted 12 games on there, and I believe they are 8-3 against the spread so far. We have one game left, and that's this week, and we'll talk about it later. San Jose State at Stanford.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that. Stanford is short favorite. How about one of the marquee games of the weekend, and that was Texas Tech at Utah. What do you think about that one?
I would not write off Utah as a Big 12 title contender just yet. Do I think that Utah was getting a little bit too much love in terms of their national rating because of what they did against UCLA? Yeah. I think we even talked a little bit about that.
We did.
It was like a measuring stick kind of game for both teams. That's kind of how I phrased it, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, here's your measuring stick. Utah, don't write them off as a Big 12 title contender, but they're not going to be a national title contender, although I wasn't really saying that beforehand. But I think we got a much better idea how good Utah is from a national level now. Texas Tech. I think that this is obviously the team that we should focus more on from this result. That's highly impressive, man. No one goes into Salt Lake City and does that against the Utes. Only been one team to do that over the last few years, and that was Oregon a couple years ago when they just out-talented Utah. And that was kind of like Utah's downslide when they started having more quarterback injuries. So Utah doesn't get beat like this at home. And here's the thing, John. Texas Tech beat Utah at their own game. They killed them at their own game. Yes, this Texas Tech team is not finesse-based. They are physically built different. They can actually play defense. Now, we talked about this. This was a legit Texas Tech defensive line, but I think people now realize what we were trying to say with that. Yeah. I still do have questions about the Texas Tech secondary, but Utah's receiving core, I think I said this last week as well, they're not really that good. That's probably Utah's weakness, so they weren't going to get tested. Texas Tech secondary was not going to get tested. But I think Texas Tech, they're obviously going to be the new Big 12 title favorite now. They're going to be 100%. A projected favorite in every single one of their remaining games. They'll probably be a short road favorite against Arizona State. But their other meaningful game away from home is Kansas State, who's been bad this year. They play West Virginia and Morgantown. Later in the season, we'll see where West Virginia is by that point. But I mean, they're not nearly at Texas Tech's level right now, obviously. So Texas Tech will be favored no matter what. And then I made a take about this in the preseason, John. Texas Tech is going to be a large favorite in every single one of their home games. They haven't gone undefeated at home since 2008. They have a great shot to do that. So, yeah, Texas Tech, as long as they don't have any injuries on the defensive line, because they had an injury at quarterback, and that didn't weigh heavily. Will Hammond looked even better, so they have a lot.
He looked. That was the one thing I wanted to mention was Baron Morton went down, and this backup comes in and he's slinging the ball around. He's dropping dimes on Utah defense. And you have people saying, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy?" I mean, he looked great, so I don't even think they're going to lose any stride if Morton's got to be out, because I think it was his head or his neck that was injured. So I mean, right now there's nothing stopping Texas Tech. So and when they have a good game like that, and Joey Maguire doesn't have to use any of his poor games management skills, I mean, there's not much that could stop Texas Tech. I don't know what their schedule looks like, and we'll stay on the Big 12 theme here. Did you watch the Arizona State Baylor game?
I did. I think the game went pretty much how I thought it would. That kind of game is why I don't really have a whole lot of futures regarding the Big 12. I mean, a lot of these teams are pretty evenly matched, obviously, in the conference. And I think, we briefly talked about that game, and I said I have literally no leans here because, I mean, it's either or and flip a coin. And it literally came down to
a game-winning field goal, right?
And it would have gone. That's right, and it would have gone into overtime had Arizona State missed it. That's a pretty evenly matched game.
Exactly.
Takeaways, I think Arizona State's defense is better than its offense. I said that coming into the season. So that didn't really surprise me. Baylor's offense, awesome. Defense looked a little bit improved, but I think some of that has to do with Arizona State's offense.
Yeah.
I think the game went pretty much as I thought it would. I think Baylor's offense just met its challenge against Arizona State's defense. I mean, that's each team's best unit there. Offensively for Arizona State, I think, there are some legitimate concerns with playmakers outside of Jordan Tyson. So if Arizona State, with the expectations that they had coming into the season, if they want to live up to those preseason expectations, they have to find some more weapons, because they can only win so many games, 27-20, 24-17.
I mean, all of their games so far have come down to the very end, except for the Texas State game.
Right.
So Arizona State's, I mean, a lot of that happened last year too. All their games came down to the final couple minutes, final 5 minutes, almost every single game. So I mean, they're battle tested, but you can only live that life so long before it comes crumbling down.
Right. Yeah, and so Arizona State, the good thing for them is they have again, it's the Big 12, so you take this with a grain of salt, but they have a more workable schedule than the likes of a Baylor, TCU. So moving forward, they host Texas Tech. That's going to be their most difficult game moving forward, and they just took care of business in Waco against what was probably their second or third toughest Big 12 opponent. So they host TCU this Saturday.
That should be a good game, because I think TCU is still flying under the radar nationally, and in the Big 12 as well. I think they could scare some people, and like we talked about on Friday, that I didn't have any faith in SMU. Like I said, Kevin Jennings, I don't know how many turnovers he had, but same story, different game. Until SMU finds a quarterback. Kevin Jennings still pretty young, so maybe they can get it fixed. But his turnovers are a killer, and the defense got tested, but the offense puts them in terrible positions. But I do think TCU is still one of the teams that can shock some people in the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree with you. From a national level, I think TCU's a little bit overlooked. SMU, I really think it's their defense that's not very good. I actually like SMU's offense.
Mhm.
I thought Kevin Jennings played pretty well despite not being fully healthy.
Yeah.
So I like Kevin Jennings. I like the SMU offensive line. The receiving core has actually been a little bit better than I thought it would be for SMU this year. But defensively, man, like I was hoping, thinking that they would still be okay. Hasn't been the case. That secondary is not very good.
Yeah.
I thought the safeties were actually pretty talented coming into the season. They have not lived up to my expectation. I knew the corners were a little questionable, but yeah, that secondary is not very good. I mean, TCU, like they're a better team than SMU, but
Mhm.
SMU's defense had a chance to get off the field several times to get back that lead. I know they reclaimed the lead in the fourth quarter, and they had a crucial 3rd and long that they gave up when they got pressure on Hoover, and he just kind of threw up a duck as he was getting hit. And I think it was McAllister, is that his name for TCU, the receiver?
I'm not too sure. Oh, yeah. McAllister, the receiver, yep.
Yeah, I think he was the one that came down with it, but came down with the reception. But it was just It was just floating up in the air, and 3 SMU DBs were right there to make a play. They should have intercepted it,
Yeah.
and they just kind of waited for the ball to come to them, and then McAllister goes up and makes a play. I see that happen so many times, man. That's why these DBs are DBs and they're not receivers.
I know. They can't catch. Well, let's go ahead and we can talk about this past weekend as well, but let's go ahead and jump into the upcoming games. I know that there's a few that we kind of want to go over. That you have maybe some plays already on some openers or some numbers that stood out to you. And I think one of the first games that we have on Friday is again a Big 12 game, like we talked about, and that's Arizona State TCU. Sun Devils at home laying 2.5 points, and TCU taking a little bit of money here. But I thought this was, kind of like we talked about again. It'll be tough for TCU because it's going to be a week or Friday night game, conference game. But again, another coin flip game. You may want to take the points. You may want to just take the money line on this one.
Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna play it, I guess that's the way to go with those prices. But I don't have any leans here. It's the Big 12.
Yeah, I know. Again, it's going to be a coin flip. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into some of the games that you already have circled on your list.
Well, I've got a few teams. As DDSN Nation knows, there's a couple of my sicko mode teams in the G5 that I'm going to keep an eye on every single week. We couldn't bet on these teams last week because they were playing each other. Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech, they won what is the national championship junior between the two most undervalued teams in the G5. Congratulations to the Bulldogs coming out victorious at home. They beat Southern Miss 30-20. But I didn't think this was going to happen. Southern Miss put up over 500 yards of offense against that Bulldog defense.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yep. Now Louisiana Tech's defense and Louisiana Tech overall, they still won the turnover battle. Louisiana Tech scored a defensive touchdown. But Southern Miss, man, they were able to sling it around against that Bulldog secondary. So that's been the first team this year that's really moved the football on them. LSU didn't move the football. I know LSU's offense
not at all.
Looked all that good, but Louisiana Tech's offense has gotten a little bit better, which is good to see for their sake. But Louisiana Tech will probably be favored in every single one of their conference games, given that Liberty has just not looked good at all. And then at Delaware, I guess is going to be trickier than I thought it was going to be in the preseason. Yeah. But they're going to be favored in every single one of their games. They're a short favorite at UTEP this coming Saturday. I'm going to wait for team totals to be announced because with Louisiana Tech, I prefer to play it with their defense. Mm-hmm. So I know they just give up a lot of yards, and UTEP can also pass the football. Right now, the spread's 3.5. Okay. Obviously, I lean Louisiana Tech there because UTEP hasn't looked all that good outside of their passing game a little bit with Malachi Nelson at quarterback. Louisiana Tech should definitely win the line of scrimmage there. So I do lean Louisiana Tech, but I'm going to wait to see if I can play it from another way than just the spread outright. Mm-hmm. But, John, it might go to 4 or 4.5 later in this week, but I would still lay it with Louisiana Tech. So where I'm getting at, DDSN Nation, is wait on that one. I might have a play with the spread or team totals later this week with our show on Friday. So no best bets on that game yet, but I probably will later on this week.
Okay.
Let's go to Southern Miss. They are also currently laying 3.5 as a home favorite against Jacksonville State. This is another one. I want to wait to see what other stuff comes out later this week with that game. I lean Southern Miss to cover the spread. I still don't think Jacksonville State's all that good. I think Southern Miss can exploit this Jacksonville State secondary. So do I want to take Southern Miss minus the points, or do I want to take a team total depending on where those team totals open? So I probably will have a play with Southern Miss, but I'm going to wait and see where those numbers are later this week. So if you want to lay right now with Southern Miss, I get it, but I'd wait for best bets later this week because we might have something more specific that we like more. All right, so you guys want a best bet right now? Let's do App State at Boise State. I don't love doing road teams. I know I've said it, but I think Boise State is getting incorrectly priced right now. That they're still looking at Boise like they're last year's Boise or close to it. They're not. Also, their quarterback, he's kind of banged up right now. Now, the belief is he's going to play this coming week. But if he doesn't, because they're not going to announce it for sure until like Friday or something. Thursday or Friday is what's being rumored right now about the official status of Maddox Madsen, the Boise quarterback. So if he doesn't play, guess what? You're going to get a really good price on that and value. Even if he does play, I still like it. App State is getting priced like how they played against, I think it was Lindenwood, when they only won by a touchdown. But really, they outplayed Lindenwood. They just had some crucial turnovers.
Yeah, they had like four or five turnovers.
Yeah, and then same thing against Southern Miss. Like, I know Southern Miss won by 2 touchdowns. Obviously, I love that for my future's sake.
Yeah.
But App State kind of outplayed Southern Miss, but they had 3 turnovers in the red zone. So you might be thinking, well, can we trust App State? Well, we're going to find out, I guess, if we can really fully trust them. But I'm not taking them to win outright, but I'm certainly taking them against that spread because here's something else to consider. Boise. How great is Boise? Like, why are they getting so much love? Well, look, I thought Boise was going to be better than what they've shown, no doubt. But I was still not incredibly high on Boise. I'm just higher on Boise than I am the rest of the Mountain West. But I mean, they got steamrolled against South Florida on the score, but the stats would say the game was a little bit closer than that. Air Force, who has had offensive issues the last couple of years, just put up over 480 yards of offense against Boise. I'm not saying App State's offense is like significantly better than Air Force's. Maybe it is, but I certainly think App State can move the football in this Boise defense. And, what is Boise's offense going to be? Some of their running backs are banged up right now. The quarterback is not 100% healthy. And something else about this game. Guess who Boise has to play next week? Notre Dame.
Who do they have on deck?
Notre Dame.
Okay. So maybe a little look-ahead spot for the Broncos. I mean, 16.5 is a lot of points. Even is it a night game?
It might be.
I just had it in front of me. No, it's at 6:30, so it's gonna be 5:30 Mountain Time. So, an evening game. Technically, not a night game for them, but it will be in the second half. But yeah, I mean, 16.5, and Boise's taking money minus $1.15. So I mean, 16, 17 points. You could even maybe wait to see if a 17 shows, but like CFE mentioned here, that could change based off of either direction based off of the quarterback injury news. Right.
And I think Maddox is probably going to play for Boise. So like, I don't think that like weighs heavily. Maybe he doesn't suit up and you get a great number. Maybe he does play, but he doesn't look that great. No matter how you slice it, I like App State here. So, I think App State is getting a little bit too much disrespect, and I think Boise is getting a little bit too much respect right now in the marketplace. So I just think that's a little bit too high of a number, especially with the spot on Boise's schedule here. Keep a lookout for our sicko mode teams with Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech later on this week. And John, you kind of hinted at this a little earlier. You're damn right, man. I'm going to have something with Washington against Ohio State, no doubt. Um,
Yeah, I don't blame you.
so right now there's a lot of 8.5s out there. I think it might be 8.5 everywhere you look. There might be even an 8 flat.
Uh-huh.
There's actually there was a lot of money coming in on Washington yesterday, earlier this morning. I mean that spread I think opened at 13 and it quickly shot down to like 9.5. I mean, so much money came in on Washington, and I obviously agree with that movement. Um, I don't hate it above a touchdown. I mean,
Mhm.
especially if you get it above 8,
Yeah.
a full possession. Obviously, I lean Washington there, but for DDSN Nation, I would actually wait on this because there's a little bit of money coming in on Ohio State right now. So you might be able to get a 9 or even a 9.5 on
Mhm.
Wednesday or Thursday, maybe. So I would wait around and shop around for the best price, obviously. So, John, yes, I will be coming back to this on Friday, but I'm going to
Yeah.
wait to see if we can get a better number. So if you want to go ahead and put a little pizza bet right now on Washington plus 8.5, shoot, yeah, go for it. I can see that, um, but I would for best bet for us,
Yeah. No,
we're going to have something on Friday.
yeah. Yeah, I agree, and the first time I saw the number was 10.5.
Wow,
Yesterday, 9.5, and then right now it's at 8.5. So I don't think it gets all the way down to 7.5. So like we talked about, I think maybe you think as well that this is a game Washington can very much win.
yep,
We saw the holes that Ohio State's defense has against Texas, except they couldn't get the ball to the receivers, or the receivers couldn't catch. So, is the Washington defense on the same plane as the Texas defense? Probably
no,
not. But what Washington does have is a quarterback, and that's sophomore Devon Williams, and he has the athleticism to give Ohio State's defense some problems and give his team a chance. I believe this is a 6:30 game, or maybe a
2:30
7:30. Oh, it's at 2:30.
Central. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, the Penn State Oregon game is the night game, right?
yeah,
Okay, okay. So that's the night game. Um, but yeah, I still think, whether it's 8.5, as long as I'm getting 7 points. But like I said, we think that they could win this game. At least I think they could win this game. It's worth taking a shot on the money line as well.
yes.
So yeah, just keep an eye out on that number, see however it goes, and whatever you feel comfortable with, go ahead and snag that. But this is definitely a game that we may see an upset.
I agree. And something else to consider. Two other things. Yeah, John, I appreciate the Damon Williams discussion there. He's been my guy this entire calendar year. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I love this kid. He is absolutely electric. If you guys haven't gotten eyes on Damon Williams yet, you obviously will this week because you're going to be tuning into Ohio State if you just like watching the big boys play. But you'll find out about Damon Williams this Saturday. He's going to put the country on notice.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, no, I agree,
yeah,
and a lot of last year, we were fading Washington, and that's how I got to recognize this guy. I mean, this little freshman, skinny kid comes out, and then he's moving the football, and he looks great. I was like, "Well, where's he been?" Because I forget who their quarterback was last year, but he's like a 5th year, 6th year, just bounced around. Do you remember what was his name?
yeah, transfer from Mississippi State. I believe it was Rogers.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, he wasn't good. And finally, he gets injured, and this kid comes in, and he looks incredible. And all of a sudden, this terrible Washington team's moving the ball on everyone. The athleticism's off the charts. So you're right. It's going to be a great game, and he's gonna get the national primetime spotlight against Ohio State, and we're looking forward to it.
And I'm pulling up something else right now. Washington is. I know they're on the nation's second longest home winning streak.
Home winning streak. That sounds about right. I think Georgia has probably the longest.
They do. You're correct. I'm looking up because I saw it on Twitter earlier today what the exact numbers are for or how many straight wins each of those teams have had. Okay, here we go. Georgia, they've won 34 consecutive home games. Washington, on the nation's second longest home winning streak, has won 22 consecutive games at Husky
Wow.
Stadium. So I mean, some pretty big games. Both teams are hosting some pretty big opponents. Obviously, Washington hosting the Buckeyes, and then Georgia hosting the Crimson Tide. So, yeah,
Yeah, and that's actually a game that I was shocked to see the spread on. Yes, Alabama looked good, but what did we just talk about? I mean, Maryland beat Wisconsin just as bad as Alabama did, and they did it on the road. So I'm still not sold on Alabama. Why I have no idea why they're taking money on the road, +3 against the Bulldogs. I think Georgia proved a lot in that game on the road against Tennessee. Are they? I don't want to go as far as saying Georgia's the best team in the country, but I still don't think Alabama's deserves the respect that kind of they're getting in the betting market. But we'll see where this number lands. I believe if it gets anywhere down to 2.5, I believe last year it closed as 3 point. Georgia was a 3 point road favorite. So I think the game will land 3, but I'm still not buying any Alabama, especially the way Wisconsin was beat up by Maryland. So I don't think Alabama's done anything special lately.
yeah, we'll see. That game is going to be really entertaining. I will not have any plays for that game. I don't know what to expect, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Washington,
What
Ohio
else? What
State.
other ones do you have? Oh, go
So
ahead.
real quick about Washington. One last thing about the Washington Ohio State game. You have a young quarterback in Julian Sayin making his first true road start. Something else to
Road
consider there.
Star. That's right.
There's a chance if Ohio State had a better offensive line, then I would say, you know what, maybe they just lean on Washington's defense and they win this game. They find a way to win. But Ohio State, at least I don't think right now, has that kind of a running game to just say,
Yeah.
you know what, we're just going to run it down your throat and establish an easier rhythm for our
Hmm.
quarterback and establish that line of scrimmage to make things easier for our young quarterback. I don't think they have that kind of an offensive line right now. So, and I think Washington has a couple of nice players in their defensive secondary. Now, can they shut down Ohio State's passing attack and receivers specifically? Probably not. But can they do enough to disrupt a young quarterback? I think they can. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
Washington's lied to win that game.
Yep.
Um,
No, I'm right there with you.
so we'll have a play on that on Friday for the exact number and price. Uh, I do have one other game that I have
Okay.
I've already made a bet on it.
Hmm.
Made it this past summer. I've already made a video for it, John.
Oh,
It's
that's right.
Penn State -3.5 versus Oregon. I think Penn State's been playing possum. This is something I talked to you about in the summer that Penn State was going to be like a 40, 42 point favorite in their first 3 games, and they
Yep.
may not do. I would not bet on Penn State in their first few games because they're going to be playing possum, waiting for Oregon. Now you've had some Penn State fans on Twitter saying they don't look like they're playing possum right now. I don't know. They're just kind of panicking right now because their offense hasn't been fabulous. I'm
Uh-huh.
telling you, they are saving their best for this game. I I would not have bet Penn State to cover any of those spreads in those first few games. So how
And
these
now you
teams,
could get it at a discount, laying 3 points.
there you go. So my bet's already in for this one at -3.5. We'll have our graphic on Friday, and we'll say game of the year, and then game of the year line. I mean, for my sake, and
Yep.
then for App State and Boise, we'll have. Can you find any 17s for App State?
I saw 16.5 with Boise laying $1.15. So I think we might see a 17 later in the week. It's possible, but I haven't seen a 17, just 16.5.
I'll say this to DDSN Nation. I would go ahead and jump on the 16.5. And if there's if there's a 17 later this week that pops out, I'd bet that too. But I would bet App State at plus 16.5 as well. So you can place a little pizza bet on both there.
Yeah. So are those all the lines so far, the games that you have circled?
Looking around here.
I was looking at this Arizona Iowa State game, and it was at Iowa State laying 6, and now it's down to 5.5, and Arizona's still taking money. So I wonder how low that's going to get. Because if y'all remember last week, we were talking about how I think Iowa State's on fraud alert, in my
Yes.
opinion, and I think Arizona's one of these teams that are laying low in the weeds, flying under the radar. Wildcats have some athletes. They obviously still have a great quarterback. And now they're letting him run the ball. He's it looked like he lost some weight and now he's running. He's a dual threat quarterback. So, they look like they could shock some people. I would have loved to take 6 points with Arizona. They're getting 5.5. I think this could be a great game. Iowa State loves playing in close 3-point games. So I'll still be looking at the Wildcats there, but holding off on anything until Friday for me.
Looking around right now. This is not best bet material for me. I don't really like doing weak games or laying it
Yeah.
for a road team. I mean, I know I'm going to have a road play with Appalachian State, but ideally, I don't like to do it too often. But I do lean Houston minus 12 and a
Oh,
half at Oregon State.
I don't lean Houston. I love Houston minus the points. Uh, because they're coming off a bye. Oregon State's been getting the basically they've been getting beat to a pulp for the last 4 weeks straight, without a breath. And, I was looking at this and yeah, 13 points seems like a discount with this Houston team, who again is playing great defense. They could run the ball. And Connor Wigman, all of a sudden, he leaves A&M, and the guy looks like a top prospect at quarterback position. So I think you're on the right track there, CFE. Houston looks good. I mean, they haven't played anybody difficult, I would say,
Oregon
but
State's not difficult
do what?
either. but Oregon State's not difficult either. So
Correct. Yeah, exactly. They're one of the worst teams in the country right now. But yeah, I think I kind of like that number 13, and I believe they beat Colorado by what, 10, 13, 14 points. So
um
at least Colorado has a pulse, which they proved us wrong against Wyoming.
yeah, I mean that was like a 10-point game, I think, late in the game, and then they had a backdoor cover. So
Oh, did they? It
I,
was backdoor
I
cover.
I'm still not that impressed with Colorado. I think that
Oh
was more
no, no, I agree with you there. I have not seen anything worth noting of Colorado.
yeah, they were up point here. Let's see. Trying to remember. Yeah, it was a 9-point game late.
Okay.
So,
Oh, and the other one that was brutal was the Miami,
oh
Ohio
wait,
UNLV game.
hang on. It was hang on. I'm looking at the wrong team here. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
No, it was a 10-point game late. Yeah. Colorado won by
Okay.
17. They had a backdoor cover. I was looking at Houston's game against Colorado because it was basically the same exact score as Colorado's game against Wyoming. Houston beat Colorado 36-20. Colorado beat Wyoming 37-20.
Okay. Okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think Houston will kill Oregon State. Um there's one team that we haven't talked about yet that we'll go ahead and bring it up because they have a big game this week as well. And that's the Fighting Sigs. The Indiana Hoosiers destroyed Illinois on Saturday, and now they'll go on the road to face the Iowa Hawkeyes, who are coming off a pretty good, pretty nice road win at Rutgers.
well, I said it a couple weeks ago that I'm going to be fading Illinois this year. Of course, the time that I fade Illinois is the time that they perform okay, at least on the road against Duke.
Yeah.
And Duke just had so many self-inflicted wounds with the turnovers, but the total yardage actually favored Duke in that game.
Yep.
And then I said, hey, I'm probably going to be fading Illinois in some of these other games this week, and didn't exactly forget about Illinois, Indiana, obviously, but I just didn't think Indiana minus 6.5 was best bet material. But hey, hindsight's 2020, that it would have been.
That would have been the easiest game of the day, unless you had Syracuse.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But yeah, so I think that's an interesting game. I just don't know. You always think Iowa's gonna has a chance in every game. but then you watch them play a team with the pulse, and they just can't score. They put up some great points against at least 28 points, I think, against Rutgers, but that's not something they do on a weekly basis. So Indiana lane 7. I don't think I will. I don't know if that. I don't know. That feels like a game that's just too obvious. Kind of like the Indiana Illinois game. So I don't know. Kind of spooks me out a little bit that it just looks too obvious, and Indiana will end up losing by like 3 points.
Yeah, I don't really have anything, especially going on the road against Iowa.
Yeah,
I just
it feels like a trick, like a trap. Yeah.
I don't think I have ever taken a team to cover a spread at Iowa before, and I don't think I ever will.
No, it's a dangerous game to play because if it's any like they're gonna they're either gonna win or they're gonna lose by 3 points. It just never fails. So yeah, I expect them to get Iowa's best game, and I still think we don't know. I mean, Fernando Mendoza is a great quarterback. We know that from last year, but they still haven't been tested, and I think they'll finally get a test on Saturday. So it should be interesting. Should be a good game. Good little Big Ten game.
So what do we think about Illinois? Are they just an average team, maybe decent, maybe like eight and
I don't
four?
know. I don't. I feel like kind of like you mentioned, they weren't impressive against Duke. They won, and the scoreboard looked impressive. But if you look at the stat sheet, Duke dominated the game, but they had 5 turnovers. So that told a little different story than the final score. I think we'll get a good idea because this USC team looks like they have some speed and some talent. Although they were in a little bit of a shootout with Michigan State, but I don't think Illinois has that same offense. USC laying 7 points on the road. I think the Trojans. I don't know. I think the Trojans could do a little bit of the same, and I think they're a little bit more impressive than Illinois.
Yeah, I I'm not going to be laying the points there with USC on the road, but I do think USC is the better team. So I mean, no play for
Yeah,
me. I think that's probably about right. You know what? Let's go ahead and lay it with Louisiana Tech at UTEP. So
what's that? 4 points.
I'm finding -3.5 at FanDuel.
Okay, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
there's more in the last like 5 minutes. There's been a little bit more money to come in on Louisiana Tech. I'm seeing some fours out there, like a 4 at
Okay.
DraftKings. But is there like a -4 on Bet Online right now?
-4. Last I saw earlier when we were talking about the game, it was -4.
Yeah, DraftKings went up to 4 not too long ago, and more money has come in on Louisiana Tech here recently. So yeah, I'm gonna lay -3.5 for the Bulldogs. I may or may not have a play on UTEP's team total, depending on where that opens later this
Yeah.
week. Um, there is a slight chance that Scotty Walden and UTEP could score some garbage time here if Louisiana Tech covers the spread, and so they're up by,
Mhm.
let's say, 10, 13, 14 late in the game. I could see UTEP scoring in garbage time and covering their or hitting the over on their team total, but still not covering the spread here.
Game.
So, look, I want to tail Louisiana Tech every week that I can, right? So I'm going to go ahead and tail them in some sort of way, and I'll lay it here. Louisiana Tech's offense and defensive lines are much better than UTEP's.
Yeah.
Louisiana Tech will win the line of scrimmage in this game for sure. There's a slight chance UTEP might get some passing yards with their passing game. That's really the only thing that they can do at this point in
Mhm.
the season. So again, they might hit the team total over depending on if it opens like at like 18 or something like that, or 19 and a half. Maybe they get some garbage time, but give me La Tech to cover that spread. And I wouldn't be shocked if Louisiana Tech, wins this by a couple of scores.
Yeah.
Louisiana Tech's current coaching staff, Sonny Cumbie and co, they are undefeated versus UTEP. So
There we go. Good little nugget there. Well, I think that's about everything that we had today. We'll go ahead and save everything else for Friday. We should still have our Friday show like normal around noonish. Do you have anything else you wanted to add before we head out?
So let's just keep a track of these best bets. As of right now, we've got App State plus 16 and a half. We've got Louisiana Tech -3.5. I'm going with two road teams here, John. Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
And we got our eye on Washington later this week, hosting Ohio State, and
Mm-hmm.
then I've also got my eye on Southern Miss hosting Jacksonville State.
Okay. And you mentioned the Appalachian State game.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, App State plus 16.5.
Okay.
I like that
And
play.
then
And
Penn State,
oh, and
you
Penn
have
State
Penn
for the
State from the summer, but now you can get Penn State laying 3 points at home against Oregon, correct?
yeah, you can find a flat 3 out there.
Okay. And yeah, nothing for me. Like I said, I am also a believer in the Washington Huskies. I think it's a game that they can win. It's a prove it game for Ohio State. Yeah, they have some players from last year's national championship team, but they kind of struggled with a weak Texas team. I mean, we still need to find out how good this Texas team is,
A
and
weak Texas offense. The
the
defense
Texas
is
offense.
fabulous.
The defense is top 5 in the country, if not number 1. But the Texas offense, Arch Manning, they couldn't even flex their muscles against Sam Houston, which is one of our bottom 5 teams in the country. So it'll be interesting. I think Texas is on a bye this week, and they have Florida
Yeah.
next week.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll
Oh,
learn a little bit more. And yeah, I think the only one that I have right now, I like Houston laying the points with Houston, like you said, like you mentioned, Connor. I think that they could dominate Oregon State, especially off a bye. Oregon State's been playing 4 weeks straight, and they've been getting beat to a pulp. So I think Houston can take care of business there. And the only other one that I have right now on my mind that I will eventually play, and that's gonna be the Georgia Bulldogs laying the 3 points. Um, Alabama's taking a little bit of money, but again, what have they shown us? Wisconsin's terrible, one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, and we don't know. We don't know if Alabama's for real or not. Georgia has a great road win against Tennessee, and we'll see what happens with Tennessee, Mississippi State. But by the time Friday rolls around, I'm pretty sure I'll have a Georgia ticket.
sounds good.
All right. Well, that's everything from us. Appreciate y'all tuning in. And we'll have another show, our full show, coming up on Friday, same time as normal, around noonish between 12 and 1 Central Time. And we'll see y'all there.